Hey, I'm Georgia. I do motion, branding, and graphic design, all fueled by my obsession with music. For this video, I decided that I would try and design an album cover in 30 minutes. I am very honest on this channel, and I'm going to start by saying I did not complete it within 30 minutes, but it was 45. So I'm counting that as a win. Basically, I started by picking my favorite song this week, which if you saw my drawing series, I have an obsession with this song. It is living rent-free currently in my head. I listen to it on repeat on the way to work. I'm autistic. It just happens. The song I have chosen is Kintsugi by Imanu Flux Pavilion and Tasha Baxter. I absolutely adore this song at the moment. It's a drum and bass kind of style song. Definitely give it a listen. It is killer. But yeah, I just opened up Photoshop and started my timer, and we'll cut to that now. I'm going to start by saying that I pre-downloaded all of the files and images I wanted to use for this task, as I just wanted to save time on that, and our internet is really quite spotty, so it can be annoying sometimes, and I didn't want to waste time. But yeah, I used Unsplash for the images and Mr. Mockup for a mock-up of a CD cover. Yeah, and once it was in Photoshop, I started by experimenting with inverting a marble background, as I found this really nice texture of marble with like a gold vein through it. And traditionally, Kintsugi is where a bowl is mended with like a gold lining or a different colored seam, so you can still see where it was broken, but it still functions as a bowl essentially. It's a traditional Japanese method, and yeah, I just really wanted to play onto that because that is what the song is about and what it's called and everything, so it kind of made sense. And like the gold veined marble almost looks like Kintsugi. Yeah, and then while scrolling gold veined marble, I phenomenally came across an actual Kintsugi of a marble statue, and I thought this was absolutely perfect. Yeah, so I ended up using that instead of the inversed marble idea, as I wasn't entirely sold on it. Next, I cut out the bust from the original background so that I could test different background colors with it and see what I liked best. I started with a red, as the original Spotify cover has red and black kind of imagery on it, but I found I didn't like the color combo of the red and the gold with the white. Usually it's a pretty good combo, but with this image it looked a little bit funky. I then experimented to see if breaking it up with other colors would help a bit, so I added a black title background on the side, as I was going to originally put the title down this black strip, but I hated it and it just looked really out of place and off. And yeah, so then that brought up the idea that it needed a textured overlay to make the background blend and work with the bust. However, it was just too much going on with the bust being already pretty textured, and then having a textured background. It was just a lot, and I felt like I was wasting too much time experimenting with this kind of thing, and wasn't very hopeful that it was gonna look how I was imagining in my head. So then I decided we go minimalist plain design and use the highlights of the bust as the background color, which if you've got something white and you pick the whitest highlight and make that the background, it's always gonna look very minimalist and very beautiful, serene kind of vibe. And yeah, it's just a tried and true method that it will look good. I then experimented with this red rectangle over the top of the bust with different blending modes. I found that darker color made the veins stick out a lot, and as it is about Kintsugi, I thought that was really poetic and cool, so having darker color as the blending mode really made sense for me, and it highlighted the things that I wanted highlighted essentially. I then turned the opacity of the rectangle down a bit so that you could still see some of the details, as I thought it was a little bit funny that you could only see the veins. And I wanted to be able to bring back some of the details of the bust, like the shoulders. Then I went into Illustrator to play around with the font that I wanted to use. I knew that I wanted the K to have like a rounded kind of look to it, but I wanted it still very squared off. I wanted it to look very much like a street sign kind of Japanese inspired sort of look to it. A lot of typography on street signs have this squared off but like rounded edges still in them, and I was trying to replicate that, but Cascadia Code, I think the font's name was the closest I could find to it, and I didn't have enough time. I did not have enough time. I then had to further think about the font and how I wanted it to look, and thought it would be really, really cool to have it as like a little ribbon coming down from the album cover, and have the font written top to bottom, just like Japanese text is written top to bottom. And so I experimented with that and then posted it into Photoshop and realized it would look way cooler if the background peeked through. So went back to Illustrator using my handy dandy little Illustrator to Photoshop editor, and cut out the text in Illustrator. After seeing it in Photoshop, I thought it looked a little bit funky because the word was so long and it took up so much space, and if I made it smaller, it was too small to be like the title of the song. So my solution was to actually write it in Japanese. I looked up the translation by Google, as I'm not familiar with a lot of Japanese. I have learnt it over the years, but not familiar enough to know the exact translation, and I wanted it 100% correct. So I looked it up in Google and cross-compared it with different books about Kitsungi, and then I've just pasted it into Illustrator and put it in the exact same format as the original text, and think it looks way better as it's only 3 characters, so I can make the ribbon quite small but still impactful with it being red and the font being quite large to see. I then began work on the rest of the text on the front album cover. I was panicking a little bit as I only had 8 minutes left, and I didn't think I was going to be able to get the whole CD cover done as I was still working on the front of it. So I did Kitsungi in English as the title part, and then I wrote the people that are on the album underneath. I did want to write some more, like a little text about what Kitsungi is. However, I was fearful of running out of time, and I just left it at that and put it in. And then I thought the red looked a little bit out of place as it was quite solid compared to the rest of compared to the marble statue, as that has a lot of texture to it, and the red just looked funny being a really solid translucent color. So I brought my texture back in and added a soft light to it and applied it only to the red, and this gave it a little bit more depth, and I think it works really quite nice. Looking back on it now, I would add a drop shadow to the ribbon and possibly the red rectangle, as that would add a lot more depth. When I added it to the mock-up, which I should have just made it in the mock-up, I realized that it was a different size. This is because I looked up the size of a CD cover and used that to create the actual cover, but the mock-up is using a different sizing version. But that was okay because I added my black gold marble, and I thought that looked really quite cool, as it looked like it was you know how CDs have the front and then they have the little binded bit, and that's usually looking a little bit different to the front cover. Yeah, so the black kind of acted as that different contrast part. Next, I started work on the front of the booklet cover, and this is when my time ran out, but I felt bad just leaving it like this, so I continued on. This booklet is the lyric booklet in my CD case, I guess. Yeah, so I just used another marble statue that I found I thought it looked pretty cool. Did the same thing of cutting out the marble statue and making the background color the highlight color. And then I started working on the inside, which has the lyrics in it. I used the same font as the front cover. And when I pasted it on top of this black marble background, I realized you can't really read it very well against the gold. So I added a gradient, which ended up looking really quite nice with the black color, as it blended really, really well, like a black gradient into a black marble. I just think that's such a simple technique, and it turned out really quite nice. And that was basically it for the lyric booklet. I didn't want to do too much to it as it had a lot of text on it, and I thought if there was too many graphics it would be a bit too much to look at. I then circled back to the front cover of the lyric booklet as I wanted to add a little bit more to it. I wanted there to be a title that says lyrics so that you knew what you were turning to. Yeah, so I went and used that same font again, put the word lyrics, made it red, like the red rectangle on the front cover, as well as applying the same soft light overlay just to continue that cohesiveness throughout the whole album pack. And lastly, it was time for the CD itself. I had to play around. I thought it just looked cool with just the bust on there, as it was kind of difficult to think of a fun way to display stuff on there and not use up too much more time than I already had, but decided the bust and then inverting it made it look a little bit different and stayed true to my original thought of having like an inverted marble kind of effect. And yeah, this is the final product. I think it looks pretty cool and pretty funky. Not the proudest of it, but I did it, and I did it in 45 minutes, which was longer than I had hoped, but still less time than something would normally take me to design. I usually spend hours on it trying to be a perfectionist, and this challenge was about getting away from that perfectionism, and I think I did okay. Like I would rate my experience like a 7 or 8 out of 10, as I still wanted to be perfect and get the whole thing done within like the 30 minutes, but I just did not achieve that. But in the end, I got rid of my perfectionist and just went for simple designs and came out with something that looks pretty cool. Hey, so I just got done editing that video and realized that I didn't record an outro. So thank you so much for watching. I definitely recommend challenging yourself to a timed challenge for whatever art practice you have. I also want to say thank you for 100 subscribers. I did not think I would get a single subscriber, as I'm just trying to practice talking to the camera and talking to the universe, I guess. I am very socially awkward, and it's really, really hard for me in social situations to just talk about myself and things that I enjoy and that kind of thing. So being on here and getting to nerd out about graphic design and just have fun and experiment with my practice is really and that kind of thing. And it just feels really nice that people are interested in my journey. And I hope that I bring comfort to those who are experiencing similar things, and you take some stuff away from my videos. That would be really nice. Yeah, at the very least, I hope I feel like a friend or an older sister for you. So thank you so much. I am shocked by how many people are subscribed. Yeah, no pressure, I guess.